Well, here we are. I promised I'd do part 3 in short order. And now we're sitting here late at Chiquita, sprawled out, sleeping. Some cigarettes, listening to some music, and ready to get into part 3. So part 1 and part 2 was a lot of early trauma with Tourette's and things like that. Family problems, whatever. Well, part 3 is where I decided to move back to New York. Now, at first, I stayed with one cousin, then I stayed with another cousin, helping them out and staying there in return. Until eventually I moved out. I'm living in Park Slope, Brooklyn, renting a room in some Haitian woman's apartment. And I was working as a 900 operator, professional psychic, actually. You could just dial into this system and it would start feeding you calls, and you would get calls based upon how often or how long you stayed on the phone with somebody. And so I would get calls assigned to me, and then it would pay you per minute that you were on the phone with them, basically. So I was doing that. And I met this girl on the psychic line that called me, and she fell in love with me, and she lived in Missouri, and I got on a Greyhound bus and I went down there, and she ended up being crazy. I mean, she was calling psychics and shit. And I ended up homeless on the streets of Springfield, Missouri, a city where I knew no one and nothing. At 19, in the winter, sleeping on jungle gyms in the snow. Those were some rough times, but eventually I started going to coffee shops. After begging for money at the mall, the Battlefield Mall. Shout out to the one guy that gave me $20 on Thanksgiving. And got kicked out of the shelter that they had there because I was too sick to attend their service one day. But then I rented a room from a guy for $50 a week that I would get from donating plasma. Managed to scrounge up enough money for food. Eventually I met a girlfriend. We got an apartment together. And then we went back to Vegas, where I ended up meeting a girl in West Virginia online, and went out to West Virginia to meet her after me and the other girl had broken up. And I thought she was the one. So we went to Vegas. She met my family. We got married. I was 21. And I thought I was finally gonna have a home. A real home. A real life. For the first time in my life. So there's how I went from living in Vegas to living in New York to living in Springfield to living in Vegas to living in West Virginia to living eventually with her in Indiana, where she ended up cheating on me, getting pregnant, and telling me the day after my birthday. Where at that point I was now 22. And she went back to West Virginia, had the baby, lived her life. We got divorced. I went back to Vegas. And that's where the darkest moments were, too. The darkest since the Jungle Gym. So we've got two very definitive arcs here. Now I'm in my dad's house. He finally let me come home after a collapse. My mom and dad's house, and all these people are like strangers to me, pretty much. Staying in his office, sleeping on the floor, allergic to cats, of which they have 3. So let's see how I rebuilt from there. We'll see in part 4.